Welcome to Conversations with Coach Lloyd. I'm a 25-time Ironman and first African-American to finish an Ironman on 6 continents plus Kona. Here with Conversations with Coach Lloyd, I've brought to you Mylah Garlington. Mylah is an orthopedic physical therapist with 16 years of experience helping people live better in their bodies. She spent her adolescence and early adulthood as a student of ballet and traditional dance in Mali, Guinea and Ivory Coast. Upon entering Howard University, she expanded her love of movement into the academic study of it. Mylah now specializes in the prevention and treatment of orthopedic, sports, and performance art injuries. After coming across the sport of triathlon by chance, she fell in love with endurance sports and has gone on to complete over 15 tries from the sprint to the half iron distance, as well as all other single sports, endurance events, including a recent cycling tour across the US. I want you to just welcome our guest, Mylah.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
It's going pretty good. How are things for you? I know you recently moved.
Yes, I moved to Georgia during COVID in April, and I'm adjusting to that and enjoying it. It's not Maryland, but I'm adjusting. It's during COVID, so I have to give it a chance, give it a little time.
Okay, well, I think if you give it a little more time, like I said, I'm a little biased. So whenever you're ready to come back to the area, we'll definitely welcome you.
Got it.
We're just waiting for you. So Mylah, you have had so many amazing experiences and done some exciting things that I just wanted to have you kind of share that. A little bit of some of those experiences with everybody. So you mentioned you accidentally fell in love with tries. Yeah. How does that accidentally happen?
So it was 2009. That's when I started. Well, that's when I did my first try. And I had a friend who was in treatment for lymphoma. And I was on the internet, and you know how Google is. I had to have been searching just information on lymphoma. I didn't know a lot about it. I just wanted to know. And Nation's Try popped up because it benefits Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
Okay.
And I'm sure they had an ad on one of the pages that I was looking at, or maybe it was a banner ad that popped up. But I clicked on it and I was like, okay. This might be kind of a cool way to tangibly, physically support her journey as she was going through treatment for cancer, and it fit what I do. Anyway, I was a swimmer long before try. I was one of the very few people who already knew how to swim, and so I registered for it.
Okay.
And then I had to go buy a bike.
So, that's an interesting turn there. So you were the folks who started off swimming but didn't have a bike.
Right. I started off swam in high school. I come from a swimming family, so I didn't experience the Black people don't swim bubble. I was kind of, had lifeguard as an aunt. Like that was just familiar to me. I love the water. I belong in the water. And I rode as a kid, like most of us did, but I needed to get a bike, and the Nation's Try is around early mid-September. And when I registered for it, it was relatively early. It wasn't still cold, so I had some lead time. And I went on, I don't know how I found the place that I bought. I did not go to the bike shop. I went to the Eastern Market.
Okay.
I went to the flea market. I went to Eastern Market and I bought a bike from a guy off of a truck, which is probably not what you're supposed to do. I know now it's not what you're supposed to do.
But it worked.
It worked. There was some visible rust on it. And it had the rabbit ear levers from back in the day.
Yeah.
But I bought it. I did not end up doing the race on that bike because I eventually got connected with people who kind of was like, maybe that's not you might want to move on. So I did eventually get another bike. And my first Tri-Nations I did on an up-to-date 2009, 2008 bike.
Okay. But again, you just start with what you have. So you got something, you got moving, and you went after it. So how did Nations go for you for that one?
It was good. I didn't know people yet. So when I went into the race, I just I knew I needed to swim. I had an LA Fitness membership. I did some research. I knew I needed to learn bilateral breathing because I hadn't done that. I was a right-sided breather. So I kind of went to LA Fitness in the evenings and drank water until I figured out how to breathe on the left. I choked, I coughed. I just toughed it out until I could smoothly breathe on the left without drinking LA Fitness water. I found a group ride on the internet at the bike shop down from my house, Arrow Bike Shop in Hyattsville. And I thought, okay, well, this will be nice. It's about 35 miles. Let me just show up with my rusty flea market bike at the Arrow Bike Shop group ride. And that's what I did. I live near there. I rode my bike down to the shop. I show up and they are there, valoed out. And I didn't really know enough to be intimidated or really know enough to know that I didn't necessarily belong on that ride. And they were so nice, they didn't tell me that I didn't belong. They did go. I did have water bottles.
The ignorance was bliss. They just let you roll through like, hey.
It was bliss. One of the Chris's went in the shop and got me a water bottle because I didn't have one. And we took off. And in that ride, in the first single digit miles, like the first 3 to 5 miles, there is a hill. Mm-hmm. It's a long hill. It is a steep hill. And off they went, and I never saw them again. Like I got dropped on my very first group ride, which is typical. But I finished the ride. It took me a long time. I got lost. I got a flat tire. I rode with it because I didn't know what else to do. And I eventually, got to be a much better cyclist.
Clearly. I mean, this back information is very, very amusing for the simple fact that now you're, just a quintessential cyclist. You are.
It happened.
You're the person who anyone wants to know about cycling or the adventures of cycling. You've been there, done that, and looking to do more.
Who would have thunk it?
It's amazing from a rusted bike out of Eastern Market to now. So okay. Now that you got the rented bike, you've done the Tri. Mm-hmm. We're going to fast forward a little bit because that journey led you to the Fuller Center bike adventure, which is, I just need you to kind of explain what that is so we can dive into all of what it is.
That. All right. So fast forward to 2019. I'd already been thinking about doing a cross-country bike ride because, again, I was on the internet and the internet knows you. And so it pops these things up. And so I saw that was a thing that people do, riding across continents, South America, North America, Africa, you name it, there's a ride for that. And I just needed to find the right one. And so I had the time, which is rare. It's a 9-week bike ride. Started in Seattle, DC, goes to Washington, DC. And you have to take the opportunity if you have a chance in life with 9 weeks when you don't have anything that you have to do. You can't miss that. So I signed up for the ride. I bought a new bike for that ride. I upgraded because I knew that it would be some serious climbing. Like, I've done some climbing, but when they use the word pass, as in mountain pass, I thought, okay, I need a lighter bike. I had an 8-speed at the time. I needed more gears. I knew I would need that. So I bought a new bike. And
it's a 9-week.
It's a 9-week tour.
A 9-week tour.
Yes, and so in cross-country bike ride terms, 9 weeks is a leisurely touring pace across the country. There are people who do it in like, I mean, if they're racers in the competitive world in 17, 18, 30 days. So we took 9 weeks. It was a group of about 30 of us.
Okay.
You look like you have a question.
No, I'm just processing. I'm just processing that 9 weeks is considered leisure.
That is a leisurely pace across the country, west to east.
Okay.
I mean, we had fun. So this is a charity ride, and
Okay.
if you want to, first of all, whoever you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. It can be done. I was the youngest person on the ride. There were a couple college students, but the average age was about 60, 65.
Okay.
Almost everybody was older because that's the population of people who have 9 weeks to just don't have to go to work. There's no kids at home. They have nothing to, not nothing to do, but they have the time available to do this. So it was about 30 of us starting in Seattle. And for charity rides, you're there to serve. You're there to help with whatever the purpose is. For Fuller Center Bike Adventure, their mission is affordable housing. So they provide no interest mortgages for people around the world and then go and do projects. So as you're biking along, there are projects that you have to do. So we painted some roofs, we painted some porches. People with more building experience were kind of geared toward more difficult tasks like hanging doors. And people who didn't really know that much, like me, just, painted. I didn't hang any doors or do any, but there were people with experience who could do that. And there were contractors to supervise us, sort of like a Habitat for Humanity situation.
With biking in between.
With biking in between, yes. It's bike, build. Actually, the same man who started Habitat for Humanity started Fuller Center for Housing.
Okay. So with the 9 weeks, someone wanted to know, Charlene wanted to know, where do you sleep? Are you camping? What does that look like?
Yes. So because the organization has been functioning for so long, they've built relationships kind of throughout the country. And so when we would get to a city, it was already arranged that we would sleep in a church that opened their doors to us, a school, perhaps a YMCA. We had air mattresses. So, you're sleeping on an air mattress for all 9 weeks. I started out with a very thin, kind of like almost like a sleeping pad that you blow up with your mouth. Shortly after, we took a Walmart errand and I got a real air mattress with a pump that you blow up because the little mat wasn't getting it. But some people really want to, they tough it out like that. And some people had the really fat, really thick queen size air mattresses. But I did get a real legitimate air mattress. So you get to the church, the school, the Y, wherever you've been kind of welcomed in, and you blow up your air mattress.
Okay.
There are chore teams on this particular ride, and so someone might wonder, how did you do your laundry? Everybody took turns doing chores, and so the laundry team did laundry on their week. Breakfast team did breakfast. The dinner team did dinner. And there was a team responsible for cleaning up the church and making sure no one left anything behind. So it's kind of a working tour.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be that way, but that's what I did.
So everybody just kind of pitches in, and it's like a whole collective group moving across the country.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning, let the air out of your air mattress. Breakfast team has set up breakfast. We have SAG support, of course, the whole time. 2 SAG vehicles. I got in the SAG vehicle more than once for various reasons. Sometimes it's an issue of, the roads are flooded. That year there was a lot of flooding. There was a lot of gravel. There was a lot more off-road than I expected because we had to take some other paths. I rode on the interstate for the first time because sometimes our way was blocked by this flooding, and the only places that we could figure out was on whatever interstate, and that's legal in some states. I did not know that until I went.
Wow. So how many miles are you doing a day? Like I mean, I know we've done group rides that are long, and after I do a long ride, it's like, you need a few days of doing nothing before you even want to see your bike.
Right.
But,
no few days. There won't be any few days of doing nothing. We did have rest days. We would have one rest day, but often your rest day was spent seeing a city. I mean, we went go-kart racing. We did a escape the room on one of our rest days. So the rest days you spent kind of having fun, bonding with the people that you're with. I would say most days were between 50 and 80, and we did have some century days.
Okay,
the highest mileage week I think was 492 or something like that.
In a week?
In a week. That was our highest mileage week. And it's really, the mileage is dictated by how far you have to go to get to a place to stay, as well as, the constraints of having 9 weeks. But you can go for a long time and not find a place that can sleep 30 people. So sometimes it's, or you have a mountain pass that you have to get over and there's nothing there. So sometimes you had to do some centuries, but they were there, they were necessary.
So it's kind of like, so as you map it out, it's like, okay, we've got to get to, so-and-so church.
Right.
Because that's our next spot. And that's
where we're staying.
But, the next one is 80. The next one is whatever it is. And you're literally just riding from your stop to the next stop.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very motivational.
I mean, it's like you can't stop before that because that's where you've got to rest. That's
where you got to rest. The van, everything you own and everybody is getting up and they're going to the next town. You have to get up and go. You don't have a choice. And so you get there.
I mean, is it like a pace line? Is it just, you and your buddy, you pair it with someone and you ride the same pace? Because I mean, I know in a normal group ride setting, there's always, the A group, the B group, the C group,
right? Based
on your speed in a local ride. So right. I could only imagine, and that local ride normally gets spread out, like you said, with that Arrow bike ride you went on.
Right.
So how does that work when you're like, okay, my next sleeping location and everything else is there, and I've got to, I'm with a group, but do you all stay together the whole time?
No, that is no. So we have, like I said, we had all ages. Some people a little older, some people a little younger, some people are trained, and some people just want to take a little leisurely tour across the country. They want to stop for ice cream because they saw a little ice cream shop. And so, there was a lot of ice cream stopping going on. And part of the motivation to ride fast is so that you have more time to stop for different things. So we circled up in the morning. This was a faith-based group, so we circle up for prayer, and then everybody would take off, and you were spread way out. There was a sweep every day, and you had to volunteer to be sweep. So when we had to go over Rabbit Ears Pass, which was a century day, and I don't know how many feet of climbing, just a lot. It was just a lot. I volunteered to be sweep before everybody else. I jumped on it. I was like, I want to be sweep because I knew I didn't want the pressure I wanted to just know I was last.
Okay.
And so I just volunteered to be sweep. But you spread way out. You do sometimes get in groups. In a group of 30 people, just like work, school, family, you're not going to like everybody all the time. You're not going to want to hang out with everybody. So you'll find your groups that you want to ride with, people who you're off. Sometimes you want to ride by yourself because you've been with people for 9 weeks. And there were days and people gave you space. Everybody knew this person is having a solo ride day. Just gonna let them.
So you got to learn how to read the room and be like, okay, Mylah needs a little alone time today. Mm-hmm. We'll catch at the next stop.
Yeah, all you have to do, you have to be strategic. You stop at the rest stop and then you just don't leave with anybody.
But
you leave before or after, and then you and it's clear, everybody got to the rest stop together and one person is just leaving by themselves. They just need a little time today.
So now, I mean, for me, my brain is now thinking of all the safety parameters of, if you decide to leave early and someone else decides to leave late, how are we coordinating to make sure, someone's just not getting
left behind?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're saying I can wait at the rest stop until I'm ready to go, I just feel like you left me.
No. So there is a sweep. The sweep is not allowed to pass anybody. Those are the rules. And so, I mean, you also want to get there. You're not going to parlay too long. Like, you want to get there. The sweep is not allowed to pass anyone. So the sweep is always behind. The two sag wagons would kind of bunny hop each other. So sag wagon number 1 would ride out ahead of the group set up. Sag wagon number 2 would ride out ahead of sag wagon number 1. When the sweep got to sag wagon number 1 would go forward in front of sag 2. Does this make sense?
Yep.
All? Okay. So that's kind of how you made sure that you kept up with everybody. No one really got left behind. There was one lady who ditched the sweeps. I can't. For the life of me, I cannot remember her name. I hope it comes to me. She was a tiny little lady, wore denim Daisy Dukes, did not wear bike shorts at all. She just had on she was a tiny little elderly lady in her denim Daisy Dukes, and that's what she rode in, because that's what she liked. And she wanted to do her own thing, and she one day did... she kind of went off course and let the sweeps pass her and ditch the sweeps. So that was kind of a big deal, because for safety, you're supposed to stay on course. You're not supposed to do that. But there were all kind of little adventures that people got into.
Oh, mercy. Well, I've got a question asking, Christy's asking, what was your favorite state or site to ride through?
Idaho, hands down. Everybody is sleeping on Idaho.
Really?
Yes. Nobody, people like, oh, potatoes. Like, I had no idea. For the rest of my life, if I had not done this ride, I would have never told anyone to go to Idaho. I wouldn't have wanted to go to Idaho. It is the most beautiful scenery. Like, you can really just stop your bike, put your foot down, and just like look around and just like wonder, like, how is this even on the planet? It's so beautiful. And nobody knows. They don't tell anybody. They don't have a commercial on TV. Idaho is gorgeous. I would love to go back not riding and just stay here. Coeur d'Alene is there. I think Ironman Coeur d'Alene.
Yep.
There, and
so yeah,
that's about it. But the whole
that is a beautiful course. I mean,
yes,
it's probably one of the most beautiful courses I've seen.
Yeah, so like that, but a whole state of it. It's so much more than like just kind of wilderness. I saw a moose when I was there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean, you just see, someone saw a bear. I didn't see the bear, but
probably for the best.
Yes, I was in the sag wagon on the day that they went on the trail with the bear, because they were riding through sand. And I was okay with skipping the sand. So
you get halfway across, the country. Is it a matter of, people have to get tired. So can I opt in, like, hey, you know what? The next 2 days, I'm just gonna
take the van,
or
yep.
Okay. You
can get in the van at any time. I got in the van a couple times because of flooding and the road. Like we were riding on kind of like a dried out riverbank. So I got in the van then. One time I was crying because I was that tired. Listen, so it's 2021 and the pain amnesia has faded, and it's like, oh, that was a great experience. But the wind was so bad going up this hill. Like, it was blowing, even trying to go downhill, it was like blowing you back up. And I was just like frustrated. I couldn't get anywhere. I was just screaming. And I got to the top of the hill and I decided that I was going to quit, that at the next available airport, I was going to go home. and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, and I'm not a crier, but look, I was having a whole moment, and the ride lead, God bless him, was like, why don't you just take a nap? And I got in the van, I took a nap, I got to the next rest stop, I was fine.
Okay.
Totally fine. I just, I literally had a grown up little
Yeah, a moment.
I had a little moment.
You had a moment.
And everybody had those moments. I was not the only one. Everybody on the ride had a moment where they were like, I don't think I can do that. And then, you take a nap, you get some water, you keep it moving.
Okay. So that is just crazy. So you guys take the whole time. Do you get here to the East Coast in faster than your 9-week time, or is it perfectly?
No, you can't go faster because you have to stay at the places where you're scheduled to stay. So there's no getting there faster.
There's no racing here.
No, there's no racing there, because like if you're supposed to be at the Pocatello AME church on June 21st, you can't get there on the 22nd. They're not expecting you to have to get there when you're supposed to get. You also can't get there late. So everything is like military precision the way they run this ride.
Okay.
I mean, everything is absolutely on schedule, down to showers, because, when you get, every church doesn't have a shower, every place doesn't have a shower. Sometimes you had to take a van to get the shower shuttle someplace else. You don't want to miss the shower shuttle. If you miss the last shower shuttle, then you got to stand at the sink and, make it work however you can. So it really is just, you get up, you ride, you get there, you take your shower shuttle, you go take your shower. There are showers in places I would never imagine. Gas stations have lots of showers and very nice showers.
Okay.
I never would have known that gas stations have really nice shower facilities until now.
Vivian wants to know, did you guys do any night riding?
No, it was not allowed for safety purposes. You had to have a tail light. You had to have a rear view mirror of some sort. It could be handlebar, it could be helmet mirror, but you were not allowed to ride without a mirror. You were not allowed to ride without a light, and you were not allowed to ride at night.
Okay.
We had to be in by nightfall.
Had to be in. But again, if you're doing, 50 to 80 and an occasional century, standalone, there's a reasonable time to get in a normal day.
Mm-hmm.
I figured by the time, 7 or 8 days have gone by, it'll get
You'll be surprised. It's hard. I mean, yes, you will have tough days, but everyone on the ride was not, a group rider. It really wasn't. It was just such a mix of skill levels, and everybody just tough it out.
What's the nutrition looking like? Because I know after we do a normal bike ride, everyone gets home and you eat pretty much everything you bought at the grocery store, everything, on the way home. So how are you fueling so that you can, rejuvenate yourself, bounce back, and jump in the saddle the next day? What's that looking like?
So that varied. So we did have a dinner team, and there were a lot of baked potato bars because the dinner team has been riding too. It's not like when you're responsible for dinner week, you get to ride less.
Oh.
You still have to ride and then come in and get dinner started for everybody. And so the easiest thing to do was throw a whole bunch of potatoes in the oven.
Is that why you like Idaho?
Right. I know. That might have been why we loved Idaho. Throw a whole bunch of potatoes in the oven. Sometimes, especially with church days, they knew we were coming, and church folks like to feed you. So a lot of times dinner would be prepared for us, and you ate. They knew to do high carbs. They knew to provide pasta, bread, salad, which is important too. Especially when you're, just riding and just trying to keep everything going right. So they kind of knew and were educated what to make for us. And a lot of these churches have been with the group for so long. they go back every year.
Now I figured they've got to be like cheat days, because I mean, even here in your normal training, if you're eating right, comes a point where you're just like, I just need some junk.
Oh yeah, we'll stop at Wendy's in a heartbeat. Oh yeah. Definitely. There was one guy on the ride who loved Dr. Pepper, and like his water bottle had Dr. Pepper in it for sure. Into Dr. Pepper. But so the reason that it's considered kind of a leisurely pace is because if you have 50 miles and you have this long spread out group of people, if you're in the middle and the sweeps are nowhere near you, you can stop for some French fries. And you have time to sit down at McDonald's, have your fries, and get back on the road before you see the sweeps. You gotta keep an eye on knowing where they are, because you don't want the sweeps to catch you, because then you gotta hurry up.
So it's like, just stay in front of the sweep. Is the mantra as you go. Whatever you do, you can stop off wherever you want, do what you want. Just keep an eye on when the sweeps are coming.
Right. Don't let the sweeps and I mean, people who were riding sweep knew, like, okay, well, last person left, we're going to just sit here for about 10 minutes before we leave. They give you a little lead time. There were some people who were incredibly fast, and there's really nothing they could do about it. Even if they slowed down, they were still fast. And so you knew if those people were sweeping, you didn't have time for French fries that day. You need to keep moving because we had a fast sweep.
Right.
And so you got to know the group and what you needed to do.
Oh man! Now, so once it was all done, how long did it take for you to recover from that adventure or that journey? Because I mean, 9 weeks of riding, I'm still.
I think about a month. I'll be honest. So the only issue that I had was my knees hurting when I wasn't on the bike. They didn't hurt when I was biking. But man, if we had a church where there were steps to go up and down, it was like, okay, I'm walking backward down the steps. And so it took me about a month before I could squat all the way down and not feel anything. It took a long time to recover from that, from that aspect of it. And I had to I signed up for Augusta the same year.
That's the Augusta half Ironman.
Half Iron, yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I had enough time, but I knew I needed to kind of stay. Like, I couldn't totally forget everything, but that's how long it took for my knees, and that was really the only thing that needed to recover to stop hurting when I squatted down.
Okay, because I knew you, since you had that Augusta race lined up. You still were trying to get some running and swimming done during that.
Tell me that was a bad idea. I did try to swim twice because we would, if you're near a Y, and I had an LA Fitness membership, and they're nationwide. 2 times I went during the bike ride across the country to try to swim some laps. The first time we were at altitude, I thought I was going to die in the pool, and I could swim. I swam maybe 3 laps, and I got out of the pool. I called my Uber because I'd Ubered to the pool, and I knew that I could not cross train on a cross country bike ride. That's when I knew I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to be able to do it, and no.
Okay.
That was foolish.
Now after the experience, Danielle wants to know, would you do it again?
Tomorrow. If I'd have to go to work tomorrow, I would be right there in Seattle with my bike and everything packed up. I am an expert bike boxer. 10 minutes, I can have it broken down in the foam, in the box, and take it to bike flights. It was, I would do it. I probably am going to do it again, actually. Whenever I can work it out. So
now that you've done it and you do it again, what are the big bike adventures are you looking at next?
So I've gone across the country at a leisurely pace. I know what that's like.
Okay.
So now I'm like, well, why don't I try to race across the country? Try to do it faster.
Okay.
So the next challenge will be to build up to Race Across America in probably 2023, to be realistic. I have to be realistic.
So what's the difference with the Fuller Center Bike Adventure and Ride Across America?
Okay, so the cutoff time for Race Across America for solo riders is 12 days. And when I did Fuller Center Bike Adventure, I had 9 weeks. That's not the same. That's not the same thing at all. That's why when I say 2023, that's a reasonable amount of time.
I have to write that down just to make sure I got my numbers right, and I heard that right. So 9 weeks. You weren't exaggerating when you said the 9 weeks was a leisure place. You're saying
no, I wasn't. I mean, 9 weeks is a leisurely pace to cross the country. That was not an exaggeration.
Now you're telling me you're trying to do it in 12 days?
Right, which is why I need so much time. I'm not even looking at 2021. I'm not looking at 2022. I'm looking at 2023 because you have to qualify for Race Across America. You can't just sign up. Like that would be a bad idea on their part to allow people to do that.
Okay. 12 days. So tell me about the qualification process. What does that look like? How do you get there? What is training for that? Because I mean, a leisurely ride for 9 weeks now, you're putting in perspective for me. I can casually ride in 9 weeks, right?
Yes,
as long as I'm in shape, I can ride, I'm comfortable. That's one thing. Now, what does it look like to qualify so that I can race it?
Gotcha. So there's several qualifying races, and most of them require a 24-hour ride. We just did the virtual 24-hour that you talked to Candace and Christy about. You need to be able to cover between 370 and 400 miles in 24 hours to qualify. The minimum is 370. They look at the course, and so the hillier courses require fewer miles and the flatter courses require less. So 370 is the max. Those are the flatter courses are 370. But when I say less, like 360, like it's not much less. It's not a lot less. There's nothing in the 200s. So because they have to make sure that people, there's a level of danger involved in trying to race for that long. So the qualifications need to be steep so that people don't really come out there and get themselves in. It's like Ironman. If you really don't train properly, you can get into some trouble.
Okay. So you're going to start qualifying. I know I've heard people talk about qualifying events and stuff like that. So, what does training for that? Is it like speed work? Is it?
It's lots of, for me, hills are, I've never been a climber. I knew that when I went out to do Ride Across America. So I'm going to have to work a lot on climbing because out west, you have those long climbs, this pass and that pass. I'm an East Coast climber, just steep and short. I can get up over it and I'm good to go. But when I have to climb for miles and miles and miles and miles, it's tough. It's tough. It's not natural for me at all. So my work will be a lot of climbing and a whole lot of zone 2 miles.
Okay.
Just miles, just lots and lots and lots of aerobic capacity and reading every single blog that anyone has ever written who has done the race before, reading what they did, what their nutrition was. Some people do all liquid. Some people mix liquid and real food. They're not sleeping much. The average is about 4 hours a night, which is the biggest difference between like 9 weeks and 12 days. You just don't sleep. You just keep riding. So, yeah.
And are you do you provide your own SAG and all that, or is that taken care of for you?
No, that's probably the biggest hurdle for RAN, because I think anybody can train for it. You just need to ride. The biggest thing is trying to get a crew of people and SAG vehicles, because it's a 2-week investment. And I mean, I got some good friends, but 2 weeks, of not sleeping, that's a lot to ask. So people usually hire a crew.
Okay.
And they may have some volunteers amongst them, but it's expensive. It's an expensive venture. Like you would imagine, because they have to sleep too.
Right.
So your crew, you may sleep 4 hours a night. Your crew cannot do that. That's not humane. It's not their fault that you decided to do this. So that means they need a place to sleep at night. So you need to pay for them to eat. You need to pay for them to have a place to sleep. So, and you want your crew to be healthy and happy and want to help you,
right,
and all of that. So that's another reason why it needs to be a long way off. It's a 1 to 2 year process just to get there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I know a couple people who I'll send your way who probably won't mind being on your SAG team.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure you've already called them already.
I'll take it. I'll return the favor when it's their turn to ride.
Yeah, they're probably on your list anyway, most likely. Especially for the training setup. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to see how this goes. I want while I have you, I want to dive into your professional background.
Okay.
As a physical therapist, just kind of getting, since it's all about movement, just want to kind of, a lot of the athletes, we all suffer from common injuries and, repetitive motion, overuse, things like that. So I just kind of want to have you walk us through some of the common injuries that folks may get, and how as athletes we can make sure we prevent them, and then also if you're unlucky to get it, some ways for you to start treating it. So I'll throw out one, Achilles tendonitis.
Yes, a very common one that you see. So just to give some general injury prevention guidelines that are not necessarily sport specific or condition specific, if you're feeling just pain, listening to your body is important. With the overuse injuries, you see a lot of just too much too soon, and you can keep yourself out of a lot of trouble by simply avoiding that. If you're feeling pain that is, I guess we need to talk about the difference between good and bad pain. So if you're feeling pain that is in one specific area, like your Achilles, for example, versus your whole calf, that's one kind of clue that you're dealing with something that is more of an injury versus something that's your normal pain. Mm-hmm. You want strong calves. With Achilles, a lot of times Achilles tendonitis, people want to stretch. I want to stretch it. I want to stretch it. I want to stretch it. And I always tell people, stop stretching it. It's injured. You don't necessarily have to stretch. That's not always the go-to. It's really loading and strengthening that you want to. So a lot of times you'll see people recommending heel raises off the step, as those are good for prevention. It's not the best thing to do when you're at the height of pain necessarily, but in terms of prevention, heel raises are good. And also you have to look up the chain. So when there's a problem with the foot or the knee, you can't just look at the foot or the knee. You also have to look at the hip. So you may have Achilles tendonitis because your calf is working too hard to push you off when you're running, and your hamstrings and glutes are not contributing enough. So it's important to look at the whole leg and figure out not only what's doing too much, but what's not doing enough. A lot of overuse injuries are related to something else being underused and putting too much stress on the offending part. Okay, so if that's the case, then I know David just posted asking about runner's knee. Mm-hmm. So you're mentioning, if that's my issue, don't look just at that area. No, don't look just at that area. Look higher up the chain. Look higher up the chain, see what else might contribute to that, and also form. So when you mention runner's knee, that can be caused a lot by understriding or overstriding. Okay. So if it's a form issue, you kind of win the lottery because it's easy. It's not a quick fix, but it's easier to change your form in a session or two than it is to, build weeks and weeks of strength. So I would say if you're having an issue with patellofemoral pain, make sure you have someone look at your running form, videotape it, put it in slow motion so you can really see how your foot is landing underneath your knee. If your foot is landing underneath your knee, it should be. You should not be landing with your foot behind your knee or well ahead of it. It should pretty much be the angle between your leg and your foot should look about like an L.
Okay.
The foot comes straight, the leg comes straight down and the foot goes straight across. You should be landing underneath yourself. So that's probably the most common cause for that particular form.
Okay. One that I think, we hear a lot about, just constantly is IT band syndrome.
You'll see that in runners. You'll also see it in cyclists a good bit. So with cyclists, I'll start there first. Of course, the knee is moving up and down, literally constantly, kind of constrained in the pedal for the most part. That can be a bike fit issue too, which is the biker's version of form, your bike fit. So you may need to change your seat height. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint through the internet where, but as a general, very broad rule of thumb, the seat height could stand to come down a little bit if you're having lateral knee pain. IT band syndrome is the side of the knee. The patellofemoral pain is going to be the front of the knee where your kneecap is. So if it's the side of your knee that's hurting, you might benefit from a little bit lower seat, but see a bike fitter first. Don't go lowering your seat right this minute. Because it can be more complicated than that. On the side of the runner, the IT band, again, can be affected by form, and a lot of times the issue is at the foot or the hip, where there's weakness in the hip muscles, in the abductors or the sideways moving hip muscles. You can also see issues when you have too much movement into and out of pronation at the ankle. So with the knee, a lot of times I call it an innocent bystander. When there's a knee issue, it is usually not the real problem. It's usually above or below, and it is just where the pain shows up. So make sure that, of course you should go see a PT, but make sure that included in that there's some conversation about form and also the joints above and below what's actually happening.
All right. Now, what about shin splints?
Oh, my favorite. So shin splints, you have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to everything, but shin splints are kind of on the continuum with what can lead to a stress fracture. And so when you're having that pain in the front of the shin, you want to be cautious. You don't necessarily want to run through any of this, but especially not that. It can be a form error, but honestly, it's usually just too much too soon. When you run or when you do any kind of impact exercise, your body knows that it needs to increase the bone density. It needs to increase your collagen density in your tendons and your ligaments. Your body actually builds stronger structures for you when you're doing impact exercise. That's how it responds, but it takes time to do that. So if you don't give your body enough time to say, hey, we're running now. Oh, okay. Let's build more bone. But you've decided that you're going to stick to your training plan, like no matter what. We're all guilty of that.
Right.
That's usually the biggest cause of shin splints. It's just too much load too soon, too much mileage too soon. Yeah.
Okay. And what about stress fractures?
Okay. So if you don't pay attention to your shin splints and you keep running, you can develop a stress reaction or a stress fracture. That means stop running that day, that moment. Please do not run through your stress fractures. And how do you know the difference, right? How do you know if you just have shin splints, if it's a stress fracture, if it's a stress reaction? The thing that we use in the clinic is a single leg hop test. It's very easy. You hop on one foot. If it hurts, don't run. That's very simple. It doesn't have to get any deeper than that. Honestly, that's a good overall test your single leg stance. If you can't balance really easily and really well on one foot for about 30 seconds or so, that's something you need to work on. Running is a single leg sport. There's never a time when you're on 2 feet, or it would be walking. You're always on one foot at a time. And so your ability to land on one foot stably and take back off, and take off on one foot is kind of that's the building block of running. So for stress fractures, go see an orthopedist. If you go see a PT and you have a stress fracture, they're still going to send you to an orthopedist, more than likely. You'll probably need to wear a boot for a while if it's determined that you actually have a stress fracture. And you need to wear it for the length of time that they tell you to wear it, and not run, and just let it heal. And then when you go back to running after coming out of the boot, if you do end up down that road, you cannot go back where you left off. You have to build back up gradually, because you don't want to end up back where you started. And I used to see a fair number of cross country runners, and they were adolescents, first of all. So, the skeletal structure wasn't that strong, but you saw repeated stress fractures over and over again because you wanted to get back faster, but you're coming back weaker than you left.
So that leads me to this. So Lenora says, make sure you don't let your running buddies tell you to suck it up and keep running through the pain.
No, don't do that. Don't let them do that, and don't let your running buddies do that either. Just see a professional. There are some things that you can run through. There's some things that are possible, and you need someone else to kind of tell you.
So that's what I need you to tell me next. I mean, as athletes, I'll just say we're hard-headed. You're triple type A, you're overachievers. You have it on your training schedule. I'm supposed to do this, and if I don't, my world's gonna end. So, at what point and how do I know when I need to see a PT, and what should I be looking for in a PT?
Good questions. So you should see a PT when the pain that you're having is, we're assuming you're dealing with some sort of pain here. I'll deal with screening later. If you should see a PT when the pain that you're having is in a small focal area versus a broad area. So if you've been doing heel repeats, your quads are going to hurt the next day. Your whole quad, the whole front of your thigh, the whole big muscle group. That's very different from just your knee hurting in one spot. So when you have focal pain, when you have sharp pain, you should see a PT. When you have pain at rest, you're just sitting there and something is just aching and you're not doing anything, then you should see a PT. When you have pain with your non-sports activity, so maybe your shoulder was hurting during the swim, but now it hurts even if you're just reaching up into a cabinet to get something. So when you start to see that pain kind of get into your normal life activities, like getting out of bed in the morning and you can't put your foot down because your arch hurts, because you have plantar fasciitis.
How do I distinguish that? How do I distinguish that getting older athletes, you did a good solid workout, and it's really not just because you're getting a little older or you did a workout?
So workout pain shouldn't last more than a day. That's another cue that you've kind of gone beyond your normal just adaptive pain. If you have pain the day after your workout, it might go away. But if it's 2 days after, 3 days after, and it's still there, then there could be something going on. You're going to feel some things when you're either doing something new or when you're going to the next level of doing something that you've done before. You'll feel some pain. That'll happen. But it should not last more than 24 hours. It should be a broad kind of muscular type of pain. It shouldn't happen during activities that are just normal. Just reaching into your back pocket isn't supposed to hurt your shoulder, just those kinds of things. And also, if you're changing your form, this is important because you'll know while you're running or while you're swimming. If you notice that you're changing the way that you would normally move to accommodate the pain, see somebody. So if you're running on the outside of your foot now, trying to avoid a pain, or if you're swimming differently, if you're, when you start trying to cheat and switch things up and to try to kind of favor the pain, that's no good, because you'll end up kind of causing other problems. Yeah.
Okay.
So changes in form, focal pain, sharp pain, pain at rest, pain with normal daily activities.
Okay. So don't work through the pain. Don't fight through it.
No.
Listen to your body. Listen to your body. Figure out the difference between the workout and
right.
Pushing yourself to the next limit versus there's something. There's an issue here.
Exactly. If you've been training for 5 years and your workout pain and this is a new pain, then that is something you've never felt before, then that gives you a clue that something might be wrong, because you're feeling something unfamiliar.
I remember the old folks used to say, are you hurt or are you injured?
Right. Yes. Are you hurt or are you injured?
Right. If you're hurt, you can keep going. If you're injured, you need to stop.
Right. Exactly. If you're limping, then you probably need to stop.
Good point.
And it may not even, the sooner you stop and see somebody, the sooner you can kind of get back to normal again.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, Mylah, I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun to share.
The Bike Across America, Ride Across America, that's up next. So I am really
in the future. I got some work to do.
It's gonna be a process. So I'm sure as you train for this one, I'm gonna have a lot more questions.
Yes.
to wrap my mind around that next one. 9 weeks, taking it down to
12 days.
And that's I take it that's the slowest person is doing it in 12 days.
That's your cutoff.
That means there's several folks who are doing it in less than 12.
Yes, there are.
So, while I'm looking at the 12 days as wow, that's short. That means some other folks are cranking it out there in less than that.
There are people who are doing it faster. They are not sleeping at all.
Oh, I can't even.
I might have to sleep a little bit.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so. And I shared with everybody that if you're in the Atlanta area, you can check out Mylah and her practice down at the Atlanta Orthopedic Institute in Stockbridge, Georgia.
Yeah.
And of course, her contact information is mylahnowsmovement@gmail.com. If you
got questions,
I'll
do my best to answer.
And you need answers, I encourage you to reach out to her and get some ideas. And of course, if you're interested in long course cycling, she'd be a perfect person. I'm still blown away by buying a rusted bike to start off your cycling journey.
It just shows anybody can
riding across America as like, hey, I'll pack up my bag right now and go do it again.
I would.
I love it.
You should come. Everybody should come. Just join. We'll just go. We'll take a leisurely pace. 9 weeks.
I won't rule it out, but I can't rule it in either. But having known you for so long, once I see my friends and colleagues do certain things, I'm always, intrigued and say, maybe if they found that to be fun, maybe it is. So
it is fun.
Don't be surprised if I'm one of those on your 2-week tour, spot checking, in there for a day or two just to see it in person.
Yeah, some people did come for a short period. You don't have to do the whole thing.
See, now you're talking my language. I can give you 2 solid days of riding. 2 solid days of support. And after that, I'm gonna have to tap out and bring in a support, some other support for you.
Gotcha. Make it a relay.
I think I got a couple people who I can talk into that.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're joining you on a relay.
Yep, that is a possibility.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mylah, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button.